Okay, I'm going to talk about the very first verse of the Bible, Genesis 1:1. Reading from the King James Version. Here's King James, and I'll read a couple of the versions. In the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth. Okay, that's King James. In the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth. The Revised Standard Version, let me read the Revised Standard Version. It's very much the same, except I think it says heavens instead of heaven. So, Revised Standard Version says, in the beginning God created the heavens and the earth. Okay, that's, I think most people know it as that way. Now, so, my question is, what does that verse mean? You might say, well, what do you mean, what does it mean? It means exactly what it says. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. That's the very first, Genesis 1:1, very first verse of the Bible. So what does that mean? Well, here's the traditional interpretation. This is what I always thought it meant, and this is what most, for a couple thousand years, most people, commentators on the Bible have been saying it means. It means in the beginning. Doesn't mean in the beginning of God. Doesn't, because that's, God is eternal. So we're not saying that God created the earth from eternity. No, it's in the beginning of the universe that we live in. When it says the heavens and the earth, that's a way of referring to the cosmos, the physical universe that we live in. So the verse, traditionally, as understood by Jewish and Christian commentators on the Bible, and I think just by anybody who reads it, if you say, well, what does it mean? And they'll say, well, it means that our universe, the heavens and the earth, had a beginning. It hasn't been here for eternity. The universe had a beginning, and its beginning comes from God. God created the universe. God is not the same as the universe. In Judaism, Christianity, even as Islam, these monotheistic religions, God and the universe are distinct. So Genesis 1:1 is teaching that the universe had a beginning. In the beginning of the universe, where did it come from? God created it. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. What else could it mean? We will quickly see that there are other ways of interpreting what that means, but I'll get into that. But for right now, the traditional interpretation has been, in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. Not only did he create the heavens and the earth, but ex nihilo, from nothing. Because there was nothing there. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. He didn't create it from pre-existing material. So that's called the doctrine of creation ex nihilo, creation out of nothingness. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. God created the universe. He just created it. There wasn't nothing there that there wasn't clay or any other material there to shape that material and then make a universe. No. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. That's a traditional view of what that verse means. You say, well, what more is there to say? But now let me read the second verse and the third verse also, because we're going to quickly see that the debate over what the first verse means will eventually call into question the other. Will call into question the other verses that follow it. So, verse 1, Genesis 1:1, in the beginning God created the heavens and the earth. Now, I'm reading from King James, verse 2. King James Version is the Protestant, basically, the King James Version, the most famous is when all the famous quotations, when people quote from the English Bible, it usually comes from the King James, 1611 edition of the... Verse 2, and the earth was without form and void, and darkness was upon the face of the deep, and the Spirit of God moved upon the face of the waters. That's verse 2. Verse 3, and God said, let there be light, and there was light. That's day one of creation. So, let me read it again. Verse 1, in the beginning God created the heavens and the earth. This is a traditional meaning, okay? God creates the heavens and the earth. That's verse 1. A particular act. God creates, it's done. Creation is finished. Verse 1. Now we go to verse 2. God creates the heavens and the earth in verse 1, and now verse 2 tells you what the universe looked like when he created it. The earth was without form and void. So he created the universe, but it was without form and void. He's going to now have to put order into that universe. Verse 2, and the earth was without form and void. Darkness was over the face of the deep, and the Spirit of God, some verses say the wind of God, the Spirit of God, Ruach in Hebrew can be translated as spirit or wind, and the Spirit of God, King James says Spirit of God moved upon the face of the waters. Other versions say, like here, New Revised Standard Version says, in the beginning, it says for verse 2, it says, a wind from God swept over thee. So, the earth was without God. Verse 1, God creates the universe. Verse 2, he tells you, describes what the universe now looked like. It was without form and void. Darkness was over the face of the deep. The Spirit of God, or the wind of God, moves upon the face of the waters. And then verse 3, God says, let there be light, and there was light. And that's day one of creation. God saw the light that it was good, and God divided the light from the darkness, and God called the light day, and the darkness he called night, and the evening and the morning were the first day. Okay, so now, what's another way of the way I just read it is not the view now accepted by most scholars, biblical scholars. They don't think it means what I just said it means. I said it means, in the beginning God created the heavens and the earth. God creates the heavens and the earth, done and finished. Verse 2, it's without form and void. And then God says, let there be light, there was light. I think the most common way that this verse is read now is this way. Verse 1 does not mean, in the beginning God created the heavens and the earth, as a unique act. Most biblical scholars now believe, and commentaries, I think they bear this out, even if it's not most, many of them do. Most or many biblical scholars would say what I just said is not really what Genesis means. Verse 1 for most biblical scholars today is a summary statement of the following 6 days of creation, or the following 7 days of creation. So verse 1 basically is a heading. Verse 1 doesn't refer to a particular act. Verse 1 is saying, in the beginning God created the heaven and the earth. That's a summary statement for what God is going to do in the next 6 days of creation. So it's basically, the way many scholars read it today is this. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. And then what's implied is, and in verse 2, and this is how it was done. So, let me give you an example. If I say to you, yesterday I cleaned up my room, yesterday I cleaned up my room. First, I vacuumed, and second, I put all my socks in the drawer. Okay, first two things. When I said yesterday I cleaned up my room, first I vacuumed, then I put my socks in the drawer. You know that when I said yesterday I cleaned up my room, I wasn't talking about a particular act. It's not like it's not like I cleaned up my room, right? Finished. And then the second step is I vacuumed. No. When I said I cleaned up my room, that was a summary of what I'm going to tell you. So when I said yesterday I cleaned up my room, that's basically I'm saying I didn't do that in one act. This is how I did it. I vacuumed. I put my socks in the drawer. I did this and I did that. So think of it this way. So when Genesis 1 says God created the heavens and the earth, most scholars would say it's like it's analogous to me saying yesterday I cleaned up my room, and then I tell you how I did it. I vacuumed, I put my socks in the drawer, and so on. So it's not yesterday I cleaned up my room, finished, it's all cleaned up, and then I vacuumed. No, the vacuuming and the putting my socks in the drawer was my cleaning up the room. So most scholars today, I think, or at least many, will say that we are to read verse 1 not as talking about a particular act that God did. God created the heavens and the earth. No, it's a summary of what he's going to do in the next 6 verses. So, now, you say, that does make a big difference, because listen, now, when I first read it, let me go back when I first read it, I said, in the beginning God created the heavens and the earth, finished, it's done and over. And then, verse 2, the earth without form and void. So, the first way I read it was, God creates, and then when you look at the creation, what does the universe look like after he's created it? It's without form and void. When you read it the second way, and the first way of reading it leads to creation ex nihilo, creation out of nothing. It's God creates the universe out of nothing. What does the universe look like when it's created? It's without form and void. The second way of reading it is this: in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. That's a summary statement of what's going to follow the next 7 days of creation. 6 days, and the 7th day God rests. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth, and this is how he did it. That's okay, the implied. This is how he did it. Now, beginning with verse 2. The earth was without form and void, and darkness upon the face of the deep. So, when you read the first statement in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth as a summary statement. When you get to verse 2, now you're in the beginning. So, now God sees the earth without form and void, and then he creates out of that formless void. So now his creation is not ex nihilo, it's not out of nothing. God is now forming the formless void. So the second way of reading is, in the beginning God created the heavens and the earth. That's a summary statement. It's like saying, yesterday I cleaned up my room, and this is how I did it. I vacuumed, I put my socks in the drawer. Okay? That's what this is going. In the beginning God created the heavens and the earth. Okay? Now, this is how he did it. The earth was without form and void. Darkness was upon the face of the deep. The Spirit of God moved upon the face of the waters. God said, let there be light, and there was light. Then you get the 7 days of creation. So, okay, I'm going to stop at this point. I will continue another video, but this has already been 15 minutes. So, I want to go. I'm talking about Genesis 1:1, and I'll come back to this in a second part. So just go to my next video in part 2, and I'll continue.